Bună ziua, sunt Bogdan Alecu și bine ați venit la o nouă emisiune ZF Investiți în România, realizată de Ziarul Financiar și CEC Bank. În prima parte vom discuta despre industria de IT și cum atrage România noi jucători pe această piață și atrage o companie care va crea 1000 de noi locuri de muncă, iar în partea a doua a emisiunii vom discuta despre învățământul din România și cum cel privat poate deveni un exemplu și chiar se poate extinde la nivel regional și la nivel mondial. Revenim însă la partea de IT și o avem alături de noi pe Katarina Urosevic, Chief of Staff pentru HTEC Group, o companie care a pornit din Serbia, are acum cartierul general în San Francisco și se extinde în Europa, atât în Europa de Vest, în țări precum Olanda, cât și în spațiul balcanic, inclusiv în România. Hello, Katarina. Thank you for being here with us today.
Hello, Bogdan. Thank you so much for having me.
First of all, what are your company's plans for Romania? How many employees will you have at the beginning, and how will you increase on our market?
As you mentioned, the HTEC Group is a company that started in Serbia, but now has a very global footprint. Our headquarters are in the US, and last year we started a rapid expansion in the Southeast Europe region. So when it comes to Romania, it was clearly a very obvious target for us to extend our operations there. When we're generally looking at expansion, the things we analyze first is obviously the engineering talent that's available on the market. But really that engineering talent comes from a strong background in mathematics, science, engineering, and from excellent universities. So really that's something we recognized immediately in Romania. As you know, there's this long tradition, like in the rest of the region, of strong education in this area. So we saw a market with more than 120,000 talented engineers. Very competitive market, however. Romania, as you know, already has all the major players in IT present in the market. But that only motivated us more to launch our operations there late last year. Now, when it comes to our plans for Romania, we've identified 4 locations where we would like to be present for the beginning. These are Timișoara, Iași, Cluj, and clearly Bucharest as well. These are locations with the biggest concentration of talent in this area, and that's where we'll start our operations. So that's for the beginning. The plan is to hire up to 100 engineers in Cluj, Iași, and Timișoara, and several hundred in Bucharest in the first few years of our operations in Romania.
And which projects will be developed in Romania? Do you have in mind certain projects, or in time the company will select them?
As I mentioned, there's already a highly competitive IT industry in Romania, but I think really what can differentiate us and what has already shown to attract a very senior top talent, and we've already hired some amazing colleagues in Romania, is the fact that as an engineering services company and as one that is at the moment global, we're able to work with really Fortune 100 companies on their core engineering challenges. And I think what is also great about HTEC Group, unlike some other companies in the engineering services business, all our projects are distributed. And what this means basically is that we don't have locational projects. There's not a project that gets to go to Cluj and a project that goes to Skopje or to Sarajevo or some of our other locations. All the opportunities that are available within the HTEC Group are available to anybody in any location where we're present. So there are no anybody who works for HTEC Group in Romania has the same opportunity to develop, to grow, and to work on the best projects with sometimes top 5 tech companies out of the Silicon Valley, and working with them really not just on any type of challenge, but really on their core technologies.
What does the company develop right now? Which are your main sectors in which you activate?
As a company that now has more than 1,600 employees and more than 100 clients that we're working with, we're pretty much covering every sector. We have particularly strong expertise when it comes to retail, logistics, transport, medtech is a really strong area for us, but also fintech, green tech, and many other areas where we have clients. Also, when it comes to technologies, I'd say another thing that's interesting about HTEC is that close to 30% of our business is in hardware development and embedded systems, which again is a rare opportunity and something that software engineering companies rarely get involved in. But we have a very strong background in robotics, hardware in general, especially medical devices, and embedded systems.
So do you compete on the global market with companies like Alten?
We compete on the global market. Some of the biggest players in our area are companies like EPAM and Accenture.
Okay.
There are also many great companies in the region that provide engineering services globally. How we've been able to kind of differentiate ourselves in also attracting an amazing client base is by being able to hire and retain, which is the more difficult part nowadays, top engineering talent, but also the fact that we have developed this core competency in digital product design over the last year and a half through 2 targeted acquisitions of product design studios, one here in the region and one in the Silicon Valley, which has enabled us to work with clients very early on from the conceptualization phase, discovery phase, and then into the delivery and the development of their digital products or digital transformation processes.
Mm-hmm. You have 1,600 employees right now, and you will have an extra 1,000 in Romania. So will Romania be almost a third, a half of your global business when it comes to employees, or will you expand in every country?
We are expanding in every country. We're also looking at new locations more in Central Europe and Western Europe for further expansion. So we do see that Romania, out of the new geographies that we've opened, has the biggest potential for growth. And I think it will certainly be one of the countries in the next few years where HTEC will be expanding the most.
Mm-hmm. Will it be like a third of the company will be in Romania? Can it grow this much?
I would say, looking at our growth trajectory, which has been close to doubling year on year for the last several years, and having in mind that we're on a similar growth trajectory at the moment and anticipated to be in the next period, I don't think Romania will be a third of the company, but I think a fourth or a fifth of the company in 2 to 3 years is quite possible.
Can HTEC also acquire companies on the local market for their employees, or you will grow organically?
We are doing a mix of both. So as you may have heard, we closed the Series A round of investment of $140 million of minority equity stake in January of this year with an institutional investor out of the US, Brighton Park Capital. We have now partnered with their team on our strategy and our plans moving forward. And really the point of this investment was to kind of further propel our growth and to create this mix of greenfield entering new locations, but also targeted acquisitions of both engineering companies where we can kind of extend our capabilities in size, but also acquire an interesting new client base, but also to acquire targeted new capabilities. Like I mentioned, we've already looked at product design studios in the past, and there are some other segments where we can introduce new capabilities in the company through targeted acquisitions. So we are carefully monitoring, constantly talking to companies in this region, including in Romania, for potential acquisitions, yes.
Do you have any companies in mind or some sectors?
It's very, we do, but it's very early to say or mention anything in public.
How competitive is Romania right now on the global market when it comes to IT and engineers?
I would say it's extremely competitive, and this region is in general. The problem in the past has been, and we've seen this as a similar case in Serbia, that historically for a long period of time, it's typically the projects that US engineers or engineers in Western Europe didn't want to work on were kind of sent to Eastern Europe and then trickled down further to the east. So the level of complexity of engineering that was required from this region was not up to par with the capabilities of engineers in this region for a very long time. They were working on kind of basic things as in outsourcing companies. Typically charged by the hour, and companies were just looking to extend their teams by a few engineers. The shift that we see recently, and we are very proud to be part of this shift and to be offering this opportunity to engineers in the region, is that we can really showcase their knowledge and their capabilities by working as technology partners, by having our teams be equal and bar on bar with our clients, and to be part of the decision making when it comes to new technology. So to be really driving the technology trends and not just kind of extending teams where a few extra pair of hands are needed. And this kind of value proposition we see working really well in our hiring process in Romania, because I think people who have now years of experience and who have developed their skills when it comes to working both in corporations and working with the clients in the US and in Western Europe now really want to challenge themselves a step further when it comes to engineering and to work on some of the most interesting projects that are available in the world, and to develop technologies that are used by hundreds of millions of users worldwide. And that is something that's really fulfilling, especially for senior engineers who have kind of seen it all in their careers.
You mentioned a few times the word green tech. Is this a trend that's going on in Europe right now with electric cars, green energy, a big potential for the IT and the engineering sector?
It's absolutely a trend, and it's absolutely a need for all global companies at the moment. Regulation when it comes to ESG, or environmental and social governance, is tightening, and companies are being held accountable for their footprint, both environmental footprint and social footprint. And when it comes to solving some of these problems, not all of it, but a part of it lies in digitalizing processes. So we've had a fantastic project with one of the biggest shipping companies in the world, where we developed a platform that kind of optimizes ship routes, tracks their ships, and has led to such savings. And when you look at the impact of these savings, it's not just savings, financial savings, but it's reduction in fuel, reduction in the environmental impact of this industry, just by digitalizing processes in the shipping industry. And this case has been also tremendously successful, because we've been able to spin out this solution into a separate company together with our client, and to now offer this platform to other shipping companies in the world. So in practically every industry, you can see that digitalization can help these processes, and companies will have greater and greater needs for this as they have to report more closely on environmental and social governance and how they're tracking their footprint on the world.
Do you also work with car companies? Because also in the automotive industry, besides the Internet of Things, we have discussions about autonomous vehicles, for example, and connected vehicles. And this sector grew very much in the last few years.
Absolutely. We have several really exciting projects in automotive. All of them are covered by very, very strict NDAs. So unfortunately, I can't give you any details, but you are absolutely right that this is a sector that will see a lot of interesting innovation in the years forward, and we're very excited to be part of that at the moment.
You were talking about how to grow to 1,000 employees in Romania. I'm curious, will you attract these people? Will you offer them bonuses, bigger salaries, or you have in mind certain advantages for them? And have you also rented office buildings, office spaces?
We will be renting office buildings. We've completed some contracts in a few cities and are in the process of completing in others. So we're expecting to move into our new offices in Romania very quickly. It will be anywhere between 1,500 and 3,000 square meters per each city to start us off. And we're very excited to have these physical locations, because while we do maintain this fully flexible work arrangement at the moment, and will continue to do so, because that's simply the new normal and something people need in their lives right now, it's also good to have physical space, and we see that people want to spend more time moving forward. So yes, we will be leasing some fantastic offices in all of the 4 locations I mentioned. When it comes to how we plan to attract talent in Romania, All IT companies have multitudes of perks and different things, but really the essential things that we've seen for people are, of course, competitive compensation and benefits package, which is a must. But the things that matter when it comes to other things are really your ability to provide opportunities to people and to support them in their professional and personal growth and development. So we have put a lot of effort in creating career development processes and supporting people in learning and development. Every company has a career path, but when you look at it, you need to be a company that's growing so that people can keep growing. And it's really fantastic to see, colleagues who have only joined 6 months ago, led a team of, 7 people, and only a few months later, their projects have scaled so quickly, or they have grown so fast that they're now, leading teams of 30, 50 people. And that kind of same opportunity you also have to make available in different career paths. So there are people who don't want to develop further in managerial skills, but want to develop more technology-wise as single contributors. And we have really fantastic career paths, including our tech excellence team, which is something very unique about HTEC, that gives you an opportunity as a senior engineer, either a solution architect, software architect, to not be fully engaged on projects, but to kind of constantly be in this ideation phase where you get to work with clients early on in the discovery and the system design, and to constantly be showing your creativity. Whereas typically, companies will have you on a single project where you're working on the same technology and on the same digital product for years on end. So we've really thought about making super interesting careers for people within HTEC, giving them room to grow and supporting them in their career development. And we think at the end of the day, for not just engineers, but other talents that we hire, such as designers, product owners, project managers, and others, this is something that matters. And the last thing I would say that matters is the quality of the projects they get to work on, the quality of the clients, and the kind of impact of the technologies they're developing.
Can one of your engineers be hired in Bucharest or in Belgrade or in Sarajevo? And if he wants to go to San Francisco and work there, can he or she?
We're exploring these options at the moment, not right now, but we do think it's interesting, especially within this region. There's so many interesting locations where we're present now, and we do want to start offering the possibility for people to spend sabbaticals or time in different locations where we're present. So definitely an idea we've thought about and that we want to implement in the future. And
how are they being paid here in the Balkans in comparison with to San Francisco, to the US or Western Europe? How big are the wage differences?
When it comes to differences with Western Europe, we see that gap tightening or closing very quickly. And it's actually, it's a consequence of the highly competitive market in IT in all the countries in this region. So this includes not just Romania, Hungary, Bulgaria, Serbia, Bosnia, Macedonia. Every country you can see that the salaries for engineers are increasing in past years. And this is fantastic. This really means that people now who are extremely talented and want to have rewarding careers can stay in this region, can be rewarded appropriately, and can live amazing lives while working on super interesting technologies and having careers that are as rewarding and challenging as their colleagues in the US or in Western Europe. So this is a great consequence. That gap is really tightening. And what we are really trying to do is to be in the top of the market when it comes to compensating engineers.
But when it comes to qualifications, how good are they here in Eastern Europe and the Balkans, and how are they in the US or Western Europe? Do you need to train? Will you train them here more than you do the others?
When it comes to engineering talent, they are extremely good, and we have clients who are amazed by kind of the quality of engineering thinking that they see and the quality of the ideas and technical advice that they get from engineers in our teams. There's certain skills that are not developed really well in our education systems here in the region, and where the US definitely has an advantage. We were recently joking, there was this group of kids who just graduated from Stanford and created this startup that's going to, change the world. And I can't talk about the technology, but it was something really out there, close to pollinating Mars or something like that. And they got funding to do it. And we were all like shocked because they were straight out of college and they knew nothing about this technology. And so we asked the investor, why are you backing them? And they said, well, because they know who they're going to invite. So they want to call the CTO of this company for advice. They're going to call the CEO of that company. They had ideas on how to create the business, but also because if they fail, they've learned something and the next company that they build might be super successful. And this exposure that engineers get, as in the Valley or in other parts of the US, in the UK, and some parts of Europe, this exposure to the mentality of you can do anything and you should try, and failure is a way to learn, is something that's not super present in this region. So there's something very specific that we have in HTEC, which is that account management sits with engineers. And to develop this type of person that has an engineering background, but is really good in both people management, delivery management, and account management, and being able to talk to our clients sometimes at a C level or a VP level, is something that is probably the most difficult thing to find here in this region, and something that you often have to develop. But when it comes to engineering skills, we are a region that's really, really, can be globally proud of the talent that we have generated.
And how did the pandemic change the way you hire people? Has it been easier to hire from different countries? Are people, I don't know, maybe from Romania interested in working for the company in San Francisco just because they can work remote?
Yeah, it has definitely changed the talent market in the sense that opportunities are more present and more companies are open to hiring people who are not in their physical locations. So it has raised the competition for sure, and that's a good thing because people have more opportunities. What we've seen really is that we're now coming to the period that it means to people to have their teams here. So there is a difference between being part of a team in the US that you never actually get to see, and even if you're working remotely here in the region, actually having a team in the region that you can, meet with at least, once a week, once a month, go on a team building and have colleagues, be part of something actually. So, people have different preferences, and the market is definitely more liberal than in the past when it comes to opportunities for people. So there is simply more available to everybody, and companies have to be offering really good things to candidates now.
And for example, in Romania, will the future employees work remote, work in a hybrid manner, or at the office?
As in all our locations, it is completely flexible. So we really leave it up to people with their preferences, and we leave it up to teams to agree. So there are typical scenarios where teams agree to, meet physically once a month in a location, and then they all travel to the same location to spend time together, to do workshops, and to do more kind of team building type of activities. And then they choose to work remotely most of the time. There are people who prefer to come to the office. So I would say it is completely flexible. However, we are dedicated to not kind of saving on office space, but having enough room so that everybody can physically work from the office if they want to, and they can have their own desk. And we will generate the opportunities for people to meet physically, but leave it up to them to decide on what works best for them, their families, and their lifestyle.
Will you have certain facilities in the offices to attract them at the office, or everybody will make their own mind?
We do have some. We're not, there are companies who have, swimming pools or slides or different things in the offices. It's quite common for IT. There's a bit of that in HTEC, of course. What is important is to create spaces where people want to spend time together, and activities for people to spend time together, because nothing can really replace that. But we're not, like I said, our focus and our investment is more on supporting people in their career development and their learning and training, sending them to the right conferences, rather than these kind of perks, although we do, like I said, have some of that.
I understand. Okay, Katarina, thank you very much for the interview, and best of luck for you and for your company. And we are very curious how it will grow in Romania.
Thank you so much, Bogdan. And for the end, I just want to thank the Directorate for Foreign Investment in Romania. I think this might also be important for your viewers, who was really supportive. Who was really supportive to us in the process of entering Romania, introducing us to new locations, and really the system has been there to help us establish our operations in Romania. So I just want to give a shout out to them as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bogdan.
Luăm o scurtă pauză și revenim imediat cu cel de-al doilea invitat.